Hi friends, Crocodile Tears, New and Selected Stories. This is a collection of 16 stories, 8 of which are old stories which appeared in my previous collection, the title of which was One Day I Locked My Flat in Seoul City. And the other 8 are new stories. They appeared in magazines and newspapers and journals, but not in book form. So this is a collection of 8 previous stories and 8 new stories. And the title story is Crocodile Tears. Um, I wanted to bring out a collection of stories which contain both the old and the new stories, and that is why I wrote the book. It's a little difficult to publish short stories. Publishers prefer novels to short stories. And so when Vishwakarma agreed to bring it out, I was very happy. I have one previous book with them, which is actually the paperback edition of my biography of Nissim Ezekiel, which came out way back in 2000 from Penguin. And Vishwakarma did the paperback edition about 4 years ago. And I have a forthcoming book with Vishwakarma. It's called Train Addiction, Travels Through India by Train. The stories in Crocodile Tears are of diverse themes. There are stories of homosexual love, there are stories of travel, and but more than the content, I think that what is spectacular about the stories is that they experiment with different forms of storytelling, and I'm very proud of the book.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Studio 2 for the session 6 Expects, Adaptations, and More, a freewheeling conversation with Mr. Vikas Swaroop and Mr. Tigmanshu Dhulia. Our first guest for today is a very special guest named Mr. Vikas Swaroop. He's an Indian diplomat and a well-known writer. He's the current secretary at the Ministry of External Affairs of India and has previously served as the High Commissioner of India in Canada and has been the official spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs of India. He's best known as the author of the novel Q&A, which was also adapted as a movie, Slumdog Millionaire, the winner of the Best Film of the Year 2019 at the Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, and the BAFTA Awards. Swaroop sir joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1986 and has almost served the Indian flag across the globe. Naming a few countries, he served in Turkey, the United States, Ethiopia, the United Kingdom, South Africa, and Japan in his diplomatic missions. His other novels are Six Expects and The Accidental Apprentice. Our second guest for today is Mr. Tigmanshu Dhulia. He's an Indian film dialogue writer, director, actor, screenwriter, producer, and a casting director, known for his works in the Indian cinema and television. He wrote the dialogues for the 1988 film Dil Se, which was the first Bollywood film to chart in the UK top 10 and was screened at the Berlin International Film Festival. His directing career has also garnered international recognition with the biographical film Pan Singh Tomar, premiered in the 2010 BFI London Film Festival, and the thriller Sahib Biwi and Gangster. Pan Singh Tomar eventually went on to win the National Film Award for Best Feature Film in 2012. I'd now like to hand over the virtual mic to both our esteemed guests to take the session forward. Thank you so much.
So, Irshad.
बिल्कुल आपके हाथों में है and what a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to you, two fellow Allahabadis speaking to each other.
That's true. That's true. And my first question actually stems from there. We both know the city of Allahabad. Both were born there, grew up there, and we know how culturally how active Allahabad was. So my first question to you is, I was doing theatre in Allahabad and so went to the National School of Art. My journey is quite simple. Yours is not. I mean, this whole interest in writing, I mean, was it there right when you were studying in Boys' School, or kind of it cultivated later on? Because as Karl Marx said, that you become your job. Your job is different. You didn't become your job, but you became something else as well. So how did, a little bit about all this, because I'm also curious. I also don't know.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting question. And actually, I always call myself an accidental writer. Because generally writers are people, when you ask them, when did you first decide to become a writer? Generally, they say at age 4 or at age 6 or at age 8, I got this great revelation that I have to be a great writer. It was nothing like that. I grew up in Allahabad in a family of lawyers. Everybody in my family was a lawyer. My father is a lawyer. My mother was a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer. My uncle was a lawyer. My aunt was a lawyer. And in fact, there was so much legalese in the house that my mother said, if any of my sons joins the legal profession, I'll kick him out of the house. So that's how, I decided to pursue something different. And, at the time when I was growing up, there were not too many options available in India. You could be a lawyer, you could be a doctor, you could be an engineer, you could be a civil servant, you could be a teacher. Many of the other professions which are available to the generation of Indians right now were not available when we were growing up. It was a time of limited opportunities. So I decided that I will be a civil servant. And accordingly, I chose my subjects in my BA in accordance with that. And I got into the Foreign Service in 1986. And then I remained in the Foreign Service. Being a diplomat is a wonderful experience. You get to represent your country, to fly the flag, and to get the experience of living in different countries and different cultures. So my first posting was Turkey. From there, I went to Washington, D.C. From Washington, D.C., I went to Addis Ababa. And from Addis Ababa, I came to London. And that is where I was there in London between 2000 and 2003. And that is where the writing bug sort of bit me. Because what was happening was several of my contemporaries in the Foreign Service were trying their hand at fiction. And more importantly, I felt that I was in the hub of English language publishing. London is one of the big hubs. London and New York are the two hubs for English literature. And every week you would hear some book being born, some writer being felicitated. And that is how I think I also got interested. It began as a challenge to myself. Do I have a story within myself? Can I also become a writer? So I took it up as a very, very strategic project. Nobody knew that I was writing something. And I said, I'll write 4.5 chapters. And if somebody accepts me, I'll complete the novel. And if not, I'll go back to being just the diplomat, nothing to do with the writer. And then I wrote 4.5 chapters. I got picked up by an agent. He impelled me to finish the novel. I finished the novel in 2 months. And that was my first novel, Q&A, which went on to become Slumdog Millionaire. And the rest, as they say, is history. So yes, I was interested in writing even as a child. As I'm sure, I don't know, you went to St. Joseph's or Boys High School, but I used to contribute to the school magazine. But before Q&A, my last published work was called The Autobiography of a Donkey. It was published in my school magazine in 1979.
Oh. Like as they say, you find prodigies in any field, a sitar player, a guitar player, a drummer, a chess expert. But writing, You only become a writer after you gain some experience in life.
Correct. So that is the big difference. I always say this: a singer can be born, a musician can be born. You're just born with a natural talent. You understand the way the strings operate, and you have a born with a God-given voice. But a writer engages with words. So unless you have a vocabulary, you cannot really write. And vocabulary is something that is never God-given. It is something that you acquire, and I think you acquire it by the process of reading. A good writer has to be a good reader first and foremost. But it should not be a one-way conversation between you asking me questions. I want to ask you, how did you get into? I know you told me you have a theater background, but then everybody in theater does not eventually go into films. Were you interested in films from the beginning, and was theater just a stepping stone, or something developed when you were at the National School of Drama, and that impelled you to become you went to go to Mumbai, for instance?
Actually, films was my first interest. When we were in Allahabad, there used to be a film club. Mr. M.C. Chattopadhyay used to run it at the physics department in the science faculty, and he used to get these 60mm prints from the archives, and we used to watch. And there were lawyers, and there were professors, and there were doctors. Allahabad is the city of lawyers, so most of them were lawyers and some enthusiasts. And I was a kid. I had no idea what I was watching, and they were screaming Bergman and Fassbinder and Godard and Truffaut. And Bergman, I had no idea who these guys were, but the only idea I had that I'm watching something important. I should watch it. So many of them are watching it with so much intent. I should watch it as well. So the interest in films was there since class 11th. I could have gone to FTI. मुझको कहीं मिल जाता. ऐसा नहीं था कि I had to go to National School of Drama and I had to do theatre. So it happened. First attempt, I got admission at the National School of Drama. So I went there. And fortunately, immediately after passing out, I got a film. So I did not pursue theatre also. Sardar Patel, Ketan, I was making. So I joined him. And then Pradeep Kishan, Arundhati Roy, they were in Delhi. And then Bandit Queen happened. And then I came to Mumbai.
Right.
So that is my thing. But all thanks to Allahabad. Allahabad की वजह से ही हम लोग हैं.
Bilkul.
So my other question to you, Vikas sir, is that why Slumdog Millionaire Criminal is also a thriller? This is a thriller, mystery, it's a whodunit. These kind of novels or short stories or whatever, they have a certain structure. They're technical. And honestly, I think as a filmmaker, they are the easiest films to make. Because the writer has already written, there's a plot, you just have to follow it and make it look nice. I mean, look, Hitchcock, great director, but I think other genres in filmmaking are more difficult.
Right.
Say drama or romance or an adventure film. Did you find why thrillers? Why not something else?
Correct. That's a very good question. When I started writing Q&A, my entire reading till I started writing Q&A was thrillers. And mainly I had read, living in Allahabad, I had read mainly Western authors, Agatha Christie, James Hadley Chase, Alistair MacLean, Desmond Bagley, Irving Wallace, you name it. I had read all of them. And somehow, to me, the sheer joy of trying to discover the mystery, at the heart of an Agatha Christie novel, for instance, was the real thrill, that who's the murderer? I'm trying to become detective myself and trying to outwit the writer and saying, you will reveal the murder in page 97, but I'm going to understand the murder in page 43 itself, something like that. But when I started writing, I said, I want to see, what is it that Indian writers have written which has appealed internationally? And I realized not a single Indian writer is a great thriller writer, internationally at least. Of course, you had Ibn Kafi, who wrote, Captain Vinod and Colonel Hamid and all that. But internationally, there was no Indian writer who had done a great thriller. So I said, let me first understand what Indian writers specialize in. Because till then, as I said, I had read Khushwant Singh, but I had read mainly Indian writers in Hindi. So I had read Premchand, I had read Upendranath Ash, I had read Surya Kanti Tripathi Nirala, I had read Mahadevi Verma. I had read, all the writers who wrote in Hindi. I had not read Indian writers in English. I had read mainly Western writers. So then I went to my library. I was living in London, as you know, at that time. And I took out 20, 30 books and I read up then that is when I read Pankaj Mishra, Arundhati Roy, V.S. Naipaul, Raja Rao, all these writers, Vikram Seth. I had not read them at all till then. And I realized one thing. I said, not one of them has written a thriller. Secondly, all of them have written about society, about social issues, social themes. But I was so wedded to the thriller concept. I said, but hang on, I want to write a thriller. But I said, if I write a thriller, it won't be a success because no Indian writer has succeeded in cracking that genre. So I invented my own genre, what I call it. I said I will write about society, but I will write about society in a thrilling kind of way.
Yeah.
So I call my novels social thrillers, where the structure is such that you want to turn the page and find out what happens next, but at the same time, it is not just a plot heavy book. There are light is being shed on some social issues or the other through the medium of the book as well.
Like in Six Aspects, I mean, there is a plot. Vicky Rai gets shot, and then who killed him? So there are 6 suspects, and then you get into all these characters, all these 6 guys. One is Shabnam Saxena, who's a aging heroine. One is Mohan Kumar, who's a bureaucrat who's kind of schizophrenic, becomes Gandhi when he flips. There's a Larry Page who shares his name with the inventor of Google, and there's Munna, who's a pickpocket, and there's an Ekatei from Andaman, who's a tribal boy. So all these, and then Jagannath Rai, the father himself of Vicky Rai. And then you get into these, there are chapters on each character. That is what makes Six Suspects a great read and a great material to work on as a filmmaker. Because the characterization is so deep and so interesting that it goes beyond just a thriller. I have not read Q&A. I have not read it honestly, but Six Aspects I've read twice. So why? Actually, leads to another question. Why such characters and why such leaning towards I will not say the subaltern class, but leaning towards the tribal boy, the pickpocket? Why is that? Where did this come from?
You see, when I write a novel, I want to write about India. All 3 of my novels that I have written have been about India. And India, you will acknowledge as a filmmaker yourself, is the most complex country on the planet. We live on several centuries at the same time. There is so much social stratification, economic stratification, that, you cannot really reduce the complexity of India through a single narrative. You can't. I mean, if you write about the call centers of India, then you are talking about one reality of India, but you are ignoring maybe 97% of other realities. Similarly, if you write about the slums of India, you are ignoring the realities of the call center and maybe 60% of other India as well. So I said, what literary device can I think of which allows me to reduce the complexity of India in a more manageable way, which allows me to touch not just one strand, but at least 5 or 6 different strands of, of the many realities that India inhabits. And in Q&A, my first book, it was very easy. I had a waiter who lives in a slum in Dharavi, and he appears on a quiz show, and he's asked questions. He's asked 13 questions, and each of the questions allows me to delve into a different aspect of India. Because what I'm saying through the medium of that book is that the greatest teacher in the world is life itself. And his life experiences have provided him the answers to the questions on the quiz show. So one question can be on betting on cricket matches. One question can be on the Taj Mahal. One question can be on Bedia tribal girls who are sold into prostitution. You can basically travel across the length and breadth of India and frame questions depending on, which direction you want to take the book in. So when I was doing Six Suspects, I said, hang on, what literary device can I use, which again allows me to reduce the complexity of India and make it more manageable? And I hit upon this idea because at that time, believe you me, 6 different plot ideas were in my head. One plot idea was I would write about a tribal from the Andaman Islands who comes to mainland India in search of a relic. And what his experiences are, because this is a person who still hunts with bows and arrows. He does not even know, he has never seen a train in his life. He may have seen a plane going overhead, but he has not seen a train in his life. What would be his reaction when he sees the modernity? And through that, I also wanted to show that are we the uncivilized people, or is he the uncivilized? Sometimes you need such characters to show a mirror to your own society. And then there was the idea of a mobile phone thief, who's stealing people's phones, and through that phone he gets a cachet of money, and then what happens to him? So I said, why not I create a narrative using all these six people? But then I said, then it will become a very disjointed novel, because if I write about a tribal coming from the Andamans, I write about a mobile phone thief, I write about a actress, I write about a bureaucrat, I write about an American coming from America, people will feel, what the hell is happening? This is making no sense. So I said I needed an overarching framework. And I said, what better overarching framework than to have a murder and have these six suspects as suspects in that murder investigation, so that everything gets packaged at the end. And that's how I wrote Six Suspects, from that perspective, where I wanted to give you a peek into different aspects of India. So you have the very rich India, you have the actress, you have the politician, you have the bureaucrat, and you are getting a glimpse into their world. And then you have the subaltern class, as you said. You have the Munna Mobile, the thief, you have the tribal, and you have the American. And then through the tribal and the American, you are also, in a way, in a sly kind of a way, I'm peeking into India from outside eyes. How does an American come to India and looks at India? How does this tribal comes from his own society and then comes to mainland India and then looks at India through what kind of eyes? So that was the broad idea, and I'm so happy that it has appealed to you. It has appealed to the filmmaker in you. But I want to ask you that when you read this, did you immediately see the cinematic potential? Because you are saying it's an easy film, easy book to make into a film, but I think it's a very difficult book because there is no center of gravity as such. So what attracted you to the book?
Well, I'm not saying that the Sixth Aspect is easy. What I meant to say was the genre thriller is an easy genre for a filmmaker to adapt, to work on, because the work is already done when it's written. But Sixth Aspect, you're right, is not. It's quite difficult. But you've denied your publisher, you've denied his bright wish of not writing the sequel of Q&A.
Yes, basically, when your first book becomes huge, it got translated into 43 languages. It was made into an audio book, a radio play, and of course the film called Slumdog Millionaire. Then my publishers were after me. They said, what about your second book? Because the dreaded second book syndrome. People are very worried that many writers are one book wonders, and they're not able to produce a second book, because many times the writing is so autobiographical that you squeeze everything out of you in the first book itself, and nothing is left in the tank for the second book. Of course, my book was not autobiographical at all. And as I said, for me, the problem was reverse. I had so many different plots, floating around in my head. So they said, why don't we write another book using the same character of Ram Muhammad Thomas, who's the hero in Q&A. In the film, of course, he becomes the unidimensional Jamal Malik. And I think it lost a little bit of the multidimensionality of Ram Muhammad Thomas. And I said, no, I'm not interested in that, because then it means I can only write about this character. I don't have any other characters in my head. And I said, I don't want to become a Spider-Man franchise where, I do a Q&A 2, and then if that becomes big, then you'll ask me to do a Q&A 3, and I'll be a one book wonder who's just serializing the same book into different
like Harry Potter.
Yeah, like Harry Potter. And I said, no. I knew when I was doing Six Suspects that this would be a much more difficult book. I knew it would not be as commercially successful as Q&A, because Q&A is a very safe book. You have a lovable hero. He's an underdog. You fall in love with him, and you want to follow his journey right till the end. But in Six Suspects, as I told you, there is no center of gravity. You are constantly shifting perspectives. One character is speaking in his own voice, another character is speaking through a third person voice. The politician is speaking only through phone transcripts, which is the hardest thing to do, because in a phone transcript, how do you even convey, how old is this guy? How does he look? What his surroundings are, because you have to convey everything through just the phone conversation, just the pure transcript, pure words.
Yeah, true. And like you asked, why did I find
what attracted you? Yes,
it is cinematic because you've explained the geography of each character very beautifully. A kitty coming from Andaman Nicobar, and that relic vanishing, being stolen from them, is very, very beautiful. I mean, I've never been to Andaman. This whole idea of shooting there. The slums of Delhi. Okay, fine. Farmhouse, we have seen a lot of farmhouses. But slums of Delhi, in such a beautiful way, because I've kind of added a few things in your, and I took your permission to do that. Only after you said I can go ahead with it did I do it. So
And that was important, because I always believe, there are some writers who are so wedded to their books, they don't even allow adaptation. They say, no, you are going to spoil it, you're going to destroy it, because you are not going to be what should I say, faithful to the soul of the book. I do not have that. As long as you are faithful to the soul of the book, I think a filmmaker should bring something of their own to the table, because the vocabulary, the texture of a film is very different from that of a book. So if a book is exactly translated frame by frame into the film, why, as a reader, I would want to see the film, because then I already know everything.
Actually, you're just covering it, and then there are these two talking heads, and you're just shooting
Correct.
them and not adding to it at all.
Exactly.
And also because your book is the references, like Vicky Rai's killing is like Jessica Lal's killing.
Correct.
Vicky killing those people is like that Nanda BMW case.
Correct.
Yeah,
And then going to the Rajasthan Wildlife Sanctuary and killing 2 black bucks, you know who that refers to.
Yeah, Salman. So I wanted to avoid that, because there's a film being made on Jessica Lal, who killed Jessica, picture aa chuki hai. So, and my question, let's put it this way: did you write this book for a Western reader in mind?
No, never. Because I think the moment you start thinking that, oh, I'm going to write this book for a foreign audience, you are going to lose all the audiences. Because why does a foreigner want to pick up a book by an Indian writer? Tell me. He will pick up a book by an Indian writer because he wants to get a window into life in India, isn't it?
Correct.
If you pick up a book by a Chinese author or by an Ecuadorian author, you are interested in, okay, what's the Ecuadorian society like? So if I start writing a book for a foreign audience, then I'll say, oh, hang on, I cannot use this because, he will not understand this. I cannot use a Hindi muhavra because, this will not be accessible. Then I'm going to reduce my book to the lowest common denominator, and it will be so bland because I will leech it off so much specificity that the book will be useless. So primarily, I write the book for an Indian audience. If the Indian audience appreciates the book and identifies with the milieu, that yes, this is a genuine milieu. This is Bombay as I know it. This is Delhi as I know it. This is Andaman as I know it. Then only the sense of authenticity will be there. And that is why when a foreigner will pick it up, the foreigner will know that this is something which is authentic. But if you start writing for a foreign audience, per se, then I think you are not being true to anything, because then you are writing purely in commercial terms. And I think those kinds of books, जैसे कहते हैं, हल्की किताब हो जाएगी फिर.
It's exciting for any reader from any country. Uska koi matlab nahi hai. And because the book has such lovely detailing, God lies in detailing, like we say. So, what detailing, a Chinese reader will also identify with it.
Correct. I agree with you. Absolutely.
When we see a Chinese film which is nicely detailed in costuming and production design and everything, the geography, the world, we get connected.
Correct.
So
Correct.
six aspects. Okay. So those references which were kind of there in those dates, I have changed those references. Like it is not a Jessica Lal case. It is like you see the minor girls being raped around India.
Right.
The incidents are more recent.
No, but even in 6 Suspects, the Jessica Lal analogy happens in the first 10 pages of the novel. These are just the pegs on which I hang my novel. This is what happened. Many people thought this is a book about the Jessica Lal case. It has nothing to do with the Jessica Lal case.
No.
I am just creating a character called Vicky Rai who gets shot in the first 10 pages of the novel, and these are the crimes he's guilty of. And then the rest of the novel, which is 400 pages, is about these suspects. Who are these suspects? What was their motives? What is the evidence? How the solution is going to be found? Who is the murderer? So the Jessica Lal case was just a incident on which to hang the tale of the murder,
and to make him look his villainy.
I wanted to him as black a villain as possible, so that nobody's shedding any tears. But the law has to take its course. Even if you kill the worst person on the planet, you have to pay a price, because murder is not allowed.
True. So, like when adapting something, what happens is when you're writing, you can write about woman's beauty in 20 pages. or his person's villainy in 30 pages. But in a film, you just put a close up and put a background score. Those 30 pages are gone.
Correct. I agree. I agree. I agree. No, absolutely. There is this brilliant parallel of Mani Shankar Mukherjee, the Bengali writer, and one of his films, one of his books was made into a film by Satyajit Ray. And they asked Shankar, that's how he's popularly known. And they asked Shankar, they said, Shankar, your book is now a film by Satyajit Ray. What do you think about the adaptation? And Shankar thought about it, and then he said, giving permission for your book to be made into a film is a bit like giving your daughter away in marriage. When your daughter, is given away in marriage, the first thing that happens is your daughter acquires a surname. So, the daughter becomes, acquires the surname of the husband. So similarly, Q&A becomes Slumdog Millionaire. And then he said, you are saddled with a son-in-law, namely the film. And then he says, remember, in India, you never ever criticize your son-in-law in public.
That's a good one. That's really a good one. So, just trying to extend the conversation, like Vicky Rai, the villain. So what I have done is I have also shown Vicky Rai's childhood.
Okay.
Why did he become Vicky Rai? I mean, a person becomes a person because of the surroundings he's brought up in. And his father, Jagannath Rai, is a ambitious politician, or I have said it not in UP but in Chhattisgarh.
Oh, okay. Even more interesting. Okay.
थोड़ा नया color मिलेगा. And a new
correct.
state. I introduce them with, Babri Masjid being demolished. They're watching it on TV. So times are changing. And they think we'll demand for Chhattisgarh. And they're not politicians at that moment, but they have this ambition. And Vicky Rai, who doesn't have a mother, is playing hide and seek with his friends. And he does something really wicked with the maid. And the father catches him and he tells his Mukhtar, jo character is aapka isme,
Right. Yes.
right hand man, ki iske make a tattoo on his back and it should read I am sorry. So वो tattoo I am sorry का लगा तो देता है, sorry की spelling गलत हो जाती है. It's a lifelong thing with them. When we show him, he's grown, Vicky Rai is wearing a shirt, so it's I am sorry, SORY or whatever spelling, wrong spelling. Right. So that is Vicky Rai.
Right. No, that's very interesting, because Vicky Rai is one character which I have not explored in the book at all, because he gets killed in the first
yes.
and really the rest of the book is about those 6 suspects. But let's see, it will be interesting to see the backstory of Vicky Rai also, and what made him the person that he became, because you're absolutely right. For every person, there is a backstory. Nobody is born wicked or a good guy. It's all your circumstances and what you make of those, what life choices you make, which determines this. Absolutely. Tell me, you are right now scripting the novel. The screenplay is more or less done.
It is more or less done. I'm going to Allahabad day after tomorrow to spend some time with my friend. But initial 3-4 days, I will sit and kind of do a revision, the last wash kind of a thing, and then I'll send it to you.
So tell me, COVID, for creative people like you, how has this pandemic affected you? Is it good for creativity that you are locked in the house and, per force you have to create, or is it bad for creativity? I want to understand this.
I can only say things about myself.
Yes.
It wasn't so good. First of all, because there was no help in the house, nobody was allowed. So
yes.
The morning till 3-4 o'clock, you were just busy doing household chores. And then you're quite tired. And my writing process is I write alone. I don't want anybody to see me while I'm writing. It's like when बचपन में टिफिन खाते थे ना स्कूल में टिफिन ऐसे करके मैं वैसे करता हूँ writing. तो घर में वो possible नहीं हो पा रही थी. But किया कुछ क्या because लोग deadlines हैं ये सब हैं तो की कोशिश, but it was not a great happy experience. ये तो नहीं था.
No, I agree with it. And I think as a writer, you want your mind to be quiet, when you are writing, you want your environment to be peaceful. And with the pandemic raging all around us, I suppose, that's not a conducive thing.
Also, every week, 10 days, you are getting some sad news. I lost so many friends during this. So it was not a happy
Yeah, I mean,
experience.
Astad Debu passed away yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
बहुत सो रहे थे, बहुत so उसका असर बहुत रहता है आप पे.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, vaccine is coming, and I think, next year will bring good news for sure.
So when I'll send you the episodes, it is the first. We are not entirely finishing the story in the first season. We are taking it to the second season.
Correct. Yes.
So there's only 8 episodes now, and then further 8 episodes. And I have tried something, a new structure, slightly deviating from the original novel. I have used that party where Vicky Rai shot, like Rashomon.
Okay. So different people will have different interpretation, different remembrance of that particular event. Yes.
Yeah. So
that's going to be very interesting.
Achieve ho pata hai ki nahi, मैं filming 50% of it is done when you film it.
Correct.
I don't know if it reads that well because मेरे साथ writing में problem है, but because I'm writing it for myself, I'm not writing it for some other director.
Yes.
So those kind of detailing and every detail, camera angles, everything I don't write because
Correct.
it is for me to know, na. It is there. How the things are here. So
that's right.
वो problem है मेरी writing में, वो अपने लिए लिखता हूँ.
But are you also writing for other directors, or now you're only writing for yourself?
I have only written the dialogues of Dil Se for Mani sir. I have written something for Rajkumar Santoshi, but only dialogues.
Okay.
Nothing else for anybody.
नहीं सही बात है. And now, as I said, you yourself are so busy. अभी आपका वो यारा आया था on television. So you have been quite. And how do you compare the genres? For instance, now this Six Suspects you're going to adapt as a web series, and the canvas is much broader because a film maximum you can do is 2.5 hours, but in a web series you can do hundreds of hours depending on how many seasons you take it. So how do you is it better to compress everything and finish it off in a film, or is it better to let the loose threads out and explore it? अब वही है कितने seasons में ले जाए आदमी, because you and I have both seen that some series start losing steam after a while, because लग रहा है कि वो आप खींचते ही चले जा रहे हैं.
A web series ka my experience has I have only done 2 web shows where I've only directed the first 2 episodes. I have not done an entire show. This will be my first show which I'll be doing all the episodes.
Right.
One was Criminal Justice, as one was Out of Love for Hotstar.
Right.
But I tell you honestly, I really enjoy doing web shows. I really enjoyed it. Otherwise, in a film, what you're doing is you're just pushing the plot all the time.
Yes.
And everything has to be snappy. Gana talks a nice end to a scene with a nice one-liner and the song happens. It's a different structure. But here, you get time with the actors. You get time you can pace it nicely. There is no hurry. And web shows now, you have such good actors also coming in. So it's a delight to work on a web show. I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent.
More than
good. Wow, this is fantastic. And I agree with you. Yes, because now you can actually explore characters in depth. You can have some side plots, etc. I mean, you can really take off in any direction that you want. Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see, how I'm really excited. So looking forward to seeing the final sort of manuscript of the final screenplay rather of.
We'll send you soon, very soon. I think 10 days time I'll send you.
Excellent, good. So should we open it up now to our people who are watching, or we want to chat some more?
Yeah. Whatever is left, we can answer with the question.
Correct. Okay, so basically the floor is now open, and okay, Manjari Prabhu is asking, what is your next book about? Another mystery. Well, yes, lockdown, for me has been creatively, as I said, it was a kickstart because my last book was The Accidental Apprentice, and it came out in 2013. So 7 saal ho gaye, 7 years have passed, and I have not come out with a book, mainly because I have been so busy in my diplomatic career. When I came back from Japan, I became the official spokesperson. That is a job which is 24/7, does not allow you any time to create at all. So then I went as High Commissioner to Canada, and I thought, Canada hai, it's a Western country. People work Monday to Friday, but Saturday, Sunday you can create at least. I did not reckon with the million-strong Indian community. So har Saturday, Sunday I was doing Onam, Pongal, Eid, Tej, Holi, Diwali. So every Saturday and Sunday I was busy, doing some community events. So time ही नहीं मिला. So then when I came back, and then I came back last November, and then March से lockdown शुरू हो गया. So that is when I started this new book. It is also a mystery of sorts, but this is a different book. This is a more interior book, in the sense the three of my books, they all range all over India. Because as I said, I'm trying to reduce the complexity of India, making it more manageable. This one is more interior. It's about two characters, and the interplay between them. So I'm excited about it, but it's still too early to talk about it. So hopefully something should come out next year.
So this book will be more introspective, as you say. It is more.
Yes. I mean, as I said, mystery element है, because वो तो मैं छोड़ नहीं सकता हूँ. Mystery element will be there कि क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ. But it's more an interplay between two characters, and I don't want to reveal too much, कि basically one becomes an imposter, so to speak, and then how they were childhood friends, and then what happens to them. I think it will be interesting. Let us see.
So is it different as you grow up, as everybody's, you gain experience in life, and then your likes, dislikes. So this book, I think it थोड़ी spiritual होगी क्या?
नहीं, spiritual बिल्कुल नहीं है. But as I said, because this is a more concentrated book, let's put it this way. इसमें concentrate, क्योंकि बाकी में क्या है, you have a range of characters and you are a range of situations. इसमें भी situations होंगी, range of situations होंगी, but it's a more concentrated plot, because it's the interplay between these two characters. क्या उनके बीच में चल रहा है. That is what's going to drive this. So I'm excited about it. When you write something, I don't know, when you're scripting a film also, you are never 100% sure कि कैसा चलेगा, how will it be received, because eventually I'm not writing just for myself. I mean, I'm writing for my readers. I'm writing for it to be read, and you are always wondering, how will readers react to this when they read it? Will they think it's good, or will they think it's bad, it's trash? What's going to happen? So from that point of view,
do you give your manuscript to other people to read and give comments? And when do you think, when does it hit you that now it's over, it's done?
Yes, finished. So that's a very good question, Manchu. मेरे साथ क्या होता है, when I write something, I'm constantly, still feeling कि यार ये सही नहीं चल रहा है, गलत है, this, that, the other, till I reach what I call it the point of no return, where I say, no, now this novel has reached a critical mass. I am going to finish this because I like what I have written. सबसे बड़ी problem writer के लिए क्या है? How to evaluate what you have written, because you are so close to what you are writing. Obviously, if you think it is trash, you would not write it. But maybe you are writing trash. Ernest Hemingway said that for a writer, the most important quality is the bullshit detector. You should know that this is bullshit or not, what you have written. So for me, the trick is to read what I have written after a gap, when I do not have the immediate memory of having written it. Correct. Then I can read it as a reader. Because if I read it as a writer, then I'll say, भाई ये तो मैं अगर खराब होता तो फिर मैं लिखता क्यों? फिर तो it is good. But only when you read it as a reader, then you say, यार ये तो बकवास था, this is complete nonsense, delete it completely, that kind of a thing. So then when you read it after a gap, and you find कि नहीं, this writing is good, it is appealing to me, the emotions, for instance, मैंने कोई लिखा, I have written an emotional scene, somebody is dying, and I have tears in my own eyes when I'm reading it. Then I know it has emotional punch. Yes, this is written from the heart. And then, so that's the thing. I have to reach that point of no return where I know definitely I'm going to finish this. Because if you are constantly having this debate, ki, ye kaise chalega, is this good, is this bad? So then that debate can happen forever. And I do not show the novel in between. I finish it, and then only, as I said, on usme bhi, I have just very few people that I share it with. I'm not the type, because problem kya hai, a novel is very personal. As you know, the same novel, an award-winning novel, you may like, and the second person may absolutely hate it and say, this is complete trash, I couldn't read beyond page 2. So every person will have their own opinion. And if you start giving it out to 20 people, at the end you will have 20 opinions. Ki, bhai, ye acha tha, but wo character mujhe theek nahi laga. This page up to page 40 was good, but page 50 onwards to bakwas tha. Ye ending change kar do. You will go crazy, because then you are reducing your novel to the lowest common denominator. And I think that's the advantage that a writer has compared to a filmmaker. Because आप लोग का क्या होता है, because yours the commercial proposition is much bigger. Writer तो भैया किताब लिखा और उसके बाद नहीं भी चली तो जो publisher invest what maximum 50, 60, 100, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 5 lakh रुपए, but films go into crores. And then everybody will have a view, इसमें एक item song डाल दो, इसमें ये कर दो, वो कर दो. So it becomes more writing by committee. Don't you agree, Tigvanshu?
I agree with you, absolutely. So there's a question: how do you adapt? How do you deal with a sensitive author when adapting? This question is nice
for you, and this is your question. Yeah, this is a question for you.
Well, if the author is sensitive enough, then probably he will not give his book for a book adaptation. It doesn't apply to you, Vikas sir, because yours is a thriller. When it is a sensitive, अभी कोई मतलब बहुत sensitive writers और भी हैं उनके, अगर उन्होंने, if he's giving his book for adaptation, then he should be sure that there are going to be some changes, and all that I don't have to deal with. The producer, when he takes the IPR and whatever rights he takes, that happens in the contract. So I really don't have to go through that guilt.
That is true.
And
Yes.
if I personally have immense respect for that writer, then I will ask him before making those changes.
No, I think that's very important because as somebody quipped, they said that when a filmmaker says, "I will remain faithful to the soul of your novel," then it means that the body is going to get mangled.
True. There was some. I wanted to ask you if web series has therefore opened up medium films to the extent that one can now aim to do an 8-hour film.
So he's saying that is the web series basically a film with an extended duration, or it's not a film at all?
Technically, it is. It's a visual medium. It's been shot on camera, and the unit is as large as a film unit. So all that is there. But the storytelling, like a web series, will not be a typical 3-act structure anymore. I just saw a web show called 000. You must watch it, sir.
Okay, I'll watch it.
New kind of storytelling.
Wow. Okay.
And interesting. It's all about drug dealing and all that. So
yes, I know. Yes.
There.
This is set in Spain, right?
In Spain, no. Part of it is set in Italy, in the US, and Mexico.
Mexico. Yes, Mexico. Yes, that's
right. Yeah. I think it's based on a novel. Again.
Okay.
Very, very. So no the whole work of a web series when you're writing or you're making it is very different from the film. Very, very different. It's not an 8-hour film. No.
Correct. I agree. That's what I'm saying. It's not an 8-hour film. You're right.
आप देखिएगा बहुत बढ़िया शो है, प्राइम है, Amazon Prime पर है.
I know. I've seen that. I know. I have seen. I was busy writing my own stuff, so that's why बीच में मेरी Netflix वगैरह drop off हो गई काफी. अभी मैंने Tenet देखी. Did you see Tenet?
नहीं, मेरी बेटी बोली थी अभी चलना है क्या, मैंने कहा मुझको यहाँ पे भी होना है, मैं नहीं जा सकता. आपने थिएटर में देखी? Okay.
हाँ, but बहुत confusing है. मुझे तो बहुत confusing लगी. I found it very confusing. Yeah. I mean, Inception was also confusing, but I think the plot was much more interesting. Anyway, as I said, I don't want to prejudice people who are going to see this. Okay, Jason Peter asked, what really gets lost when adapting from a book to a film? Yeah, I think now this is a very interesting question for both of us. I think there is definitely a loss. There is no doubt about it, because you cannot translate a book into a film completely. It's just not possible, because a book has a different vocabulary. A book has side plots. A book has interior monologues. A film is in your face. A film goes from A to B to C to D to E. But in a book, you can go from A to N, and then N to P, and then P to Q. So you can really navigate quite a bit. So I think the question should not be what is lost. I think what is the balance sheet? What is lost and what is gained? There is also a gain, because a book does not have music. A book does not have visuals. A book is just words on a page, and you have to imagine that those words and frame the image in your head. And that is the beauty of a book, that when you are reading a Harry Potter, you can imagine yourself as Harry Potter. But once the film comes out, then it colonizes your brain. then Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. You can no longer imagine yourself as Harry Potter because that particular character has now been set in stone. So I think the way I would look at it is that, you have to look at what is the trade-off, how faithful the film director was in adapting. What did he bring to the table? So something was lost, something was gained. In my, for instance, Q&A, the main character was called Ram Muhammad Thomas, and it was a very important factor for me, because his multidimensionality. He's Ram from the Hindu religion, he's Muhammad from the Islamic religion, he's Thomas from the Christian religion, and he uses the various elements of his name to respond to different situations. But in the film, he becomes Jamal Malik, so something was definitely lost.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got fantastic music, you got this great acting by the child actors, you got a slightly different plot, you got some new stories which are not in the book. That was a gain. And I think the final product only readers who have seen the film and who have read the book, only they can decide, whether the balance sheet was positive or negative. So that's how I would approach it. But Tigmanshu, what's your take?
I think I'm going to extend what you said, because what you said was absolutely correct. When a reader is reading a novel, what he's creating, because as you said, there are only words. So he creates that world. He starts imagining and he creates. And when he sees an adaptation of that book into a film, and if it is not as good as the world he created in his mind, he will reject the film.
Absolutely right. Correct.
So it happened to me. I loved Godfather. I loved the book. I read the book after I watched the film. Bridges of Madison County, I read the novel and then I saw the film. I thought the film was crap. I did not like the film at all. Though it had Clint Eastwood as director, there was Meryl Streep. The casting was very nice. But same thing happened with the Kite Runner. I thought the book was brilliant. The film was all right. It wasn't too bad, but the book was great. So it happens. It really happens. So if we kind of analyze something, a great book and a great film, then the analysis can be balanced. Like you said, it all depends on the balance sheet. Because eventually a filmmaker is going to build something on a solid base, which is the book. So it has to be good. If it is not good, then he's not a filmmaker. He's not a good filmmaker.
But at the same time, he cannot use the entire book. Something has to be left out. So I think that is where the balance lies. Does he leave out the good parts, or does he add some bad parts?
I think all about description. It is. I think the descriptive part of the novel has to be left out, because all that happens in a second in a film.
I agree. That's the thing. As you say, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. और
सवाल आ नहीं रहे हैं, लग नहीं रहा है कि I think people are
लगता मजा नहीं आया इनको.
हाँ, लग कुछ ऐसा ही रहा है, कुछ मसाला नहीं मिल रहा है लोगों को. कुछ आइटम नंबर डालिए प्लीज. We need an item song.
How difficult or easy is it for a director to make another story his own and to feel about it as strongly or even more?
Good question.
How difficult or easy is it for a director to make another story his own and to feel about it as strongly or even more? I can only talk about myself. If my mind is aligned to the ideology of the book, then I'm there. If I have some ideological conflict, I will not even attempt it.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
So I like the ideology of 6 Aspects. I like Vikas Swarup sir's inclination. His heart was there with Ekiti and Munna. And I think I'm also a person like that who kind of feels that way for society. So probably that is why I got interested. And then it was thriller, which was exciting. It's what a thriller does. It makes you like a kid, kid with the popcorn and the picture. All you don't want the film to end.
No, but that's a very valid point. Because if you do not like the book at all, why the hell would you want to adapt it? I think it's you are being very, very, unless, as I said, you just see a commercial opportunity, which I think then the filmmaker is not being true to his own profession, I would say.
Yeah, true.
I agree. Can we say that fiction, radio, or audio format is a good combination of both print and screen media, not really concretizing the images but decorating the content? What is fiction radio? I didn't know about this. ये क्या है हिमांशु भाई, बताइए ये क्या चीज है?
जैसे हवा महल होता था ना सर पहले।
ओ हवा महल है ये, अच्छा ओके राइट, हाँ हवा महल तो सुनते थे हम लोग, करेक्ट, दैट्स राइट।
राइट, आप उसका जवाब दें।
No, I think, look, because basically audiobooks, you see, problem is I wanted audiobooks to be Hawa Mahal, but audiobooks is just somebody reading out, the words without really creating the atmosphere around those words. For instance, अगर आप horror book पढ़ रहे हैं तो थोड़ी वो वो म्यूजिक 20 साल बाद वाली म्यूजिक थोड़ी दे दीजिए पीछे, and that kind of a thing, which helps create the atmosphere, puts the viewer or the listener into that particular atmosphere. But audiobooks में वो बात नहीं है. Audiobooks is just, there's no music in an audiobook. It is just a straight retelling of the novel, which you are reading while driving your car or whatever, because you don't have time to read the book as such. So I think it's a good idea, because it's a in between kind of a thing where you are giving some clues, you are giving some oral clues, but you're not giving visual clues, because visual clues तो फिल्म में ही आएगा, सिर्फ आपको ऑडियो क्लूज मिल रहे हैं. But as I said, some audio clues can be pretty good. Footsteps आ रहे हैं, especially I think for atmospheric kind of a novels, the thing would work very well. But for a very literary kind of a novel, I don't think this will really work, because उसमें आप क्या समझ पाएंगे through the medium of a Hawa Mahal kind of a thing. I don't know, what's your take, Tigmanshu?
Yes, इसमें भी the plot will work. If it's a plotty story, only then it will work. But it will work really well.
No, I agree. Of course, it will. You have no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Especially because some people, आजकल क्या है, attention spans इतने कम हो गए हैं लोगों के, that people just cannot engage with a 400-page book. बहुत उनको टाइम निकालना पड़ता है, and unless you hook them from sort of first page and then they read it.
Like Love in the Times of a Cholera, or a great novel like War and Peace will not work in this format.
Right. Exactly, absolutely right. I totally agree with you. So yes, short, punchy, which has a quick resolution kind of a thing, that can work quite well. But
it can be a love story as well. It can be a love story.
That can also work. That's right. I agree. That's how important. So this brings me to the question: how important is music in your films, Tigmanshu?
So, music, because it all comes to, I feel very sad because songs are going away from our films, and
yes,
मुझे बहुत अच्छे लगते थे गाने, and it was unique to Indian cinema. Hollywood, they had to make musicals to have songs. Heroes could bring it to a song anytime, and songs were descriptive of your emotion. One song was equal to 10 scenes.
Yes.
सारी बात बता देना. That is going because filmmaking has become very expensive. First recording a song, big music directors will, a big song, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, one song recording. And then you shoot the song. If it's a big song, it will take 4-5 days of shooting. So that is the reason we have songs only in big films where they can afford songs. In smaller films, songs are going. We have songs in the background.
You're right.
So I feel sad.
This is the first time I'm knowing about this. So songs are being removed from films for economic reasons, basically because they feel it's adding too much to the cost.
Yes, that is one reason. Then there is another reason. If I say it, I might offend some people. We don't have those kind of heroes who can carry songs.
Or is it the Hollywood style of filmmaking coming more to India now?
That is also true.
In the background,
And the young filmmakers and the young kids who are getting into filmmaking, they look down upon our old Hindi cinema.
Okay.
Whereas when I came into it, I had so much reverence for it. So that is also one reason. And their whole background is Western, which is, you will not take them too far.
I agree with you. Yeah. Good. I think we have reached the end of our conversation. I think the presenter is going to come on, but thank you so much. I really want to say what a pleasure it was to speak to you. And as I said, this was really a freewheeling conversation among friends. We had no rehearsal. We had no idea what questions are going to come.
They sent us pointers. They did not do that, but it was great talking to you, sir.
Same here.
तो क्या करें हम लोग अभी?
बस वो धीरज परवानी जी आने वाले हैं स्टेज पे. अच्छा. धीरज जी, आपका इंतजार है.
Thank you so much for such a fascinating and interesting session. I heard it throughout. It was fun. Thank you so much, Dr. Vikas Swaroop sir and Tigmanshu Dulia sir. With this, we come to an end on the stage 2 of the first day of Pune International Literary Festival. Before ending, I'd like to thank our international partners, Allianz Francis, Salzburg Global Seminar, Embassy of Portugal, Goethe Institute of Max Muller Bhavan, Institute Francis India, Literature Across Frontiers, Literary Europe Live, Creative Europe Program of the European Union. Thank you so much for being a partner with PILF 2020. Thank you for being with us throughout this online journey. We hope to see you again for the next 2 days with so many more interesting and thought-provoking sessions. You can continue attending sessions on Studio One. Till then, good night. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.